A'udhu Billah. This is the big one. Fakhar and kibr. Kibrun, fakhar. Fakhar it's pretty basic. Boasting. Boasting is a disease of the heart. Now fakhar is different from say mubaha or something like that, in that fakhar is generally understood here to be boasting about something that you have not earned. So it's when you boast about nasab, like I'm a sharif, or my father's, or my father. One of the things that they did, it's so beautiful on the Battle of Uhud. That's what the Arabs used to do. They'd shout out, Ana ibnu fulan, as a way. And the Prophet ﷺ would say, Ana ibn al-awatik. Which means, I'm the son of the women named Atika. And the Arabs didn't boast with their mothers. So it's like doing the opposite of what their intention is. I'm the son of so-and-so, and he said, Ana ibn al-awatik. I'm the son of Atika, all those Atikas, because many of his grandparents were named Atika. Right? So, boasting about the parents, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli alayhi. Boasting about parents, boasting about these things. Wild Khudaym mentions in there, he said, he said, لَإِنْ فَخَرْتَ بِآبَاءٍ ذُوِي شَرَفٍ لَقَدْ صَدَقْتَ وَلَكِنْ بِئْسَ مَا وَلَدُوا. If you boast about your parents or your ancestors that have honor, it's true. If it's true, like if they were Bani Hashim, it's true what you're saying. But he said, it's, بِئْسَ مَا وَلَدُوا. They left behind really lousy children. Right? If you're boasting about your parents and you haven't done anything, and that's what the Arabs say, لَيْسَ الْفَتَى مَنْ قَالَ كَانَ أَبِي إِنَّمَا الْفَتَى مَنْ قَالَ هَا أَنَا. The man is not the one who says, my father was. It's the one who said, here I am. In other words, you do something. And Jalaluddin al-Rumi has a poem where he's mentioning all these great people that went before. And then he said, but don't be content with stories of those who went before you. Go out and create your own story. In other words, be one of those people that people after you, they'll talk about you. Right? And this is something that's part of our teaching, the idea of really being significant people. It's not wanting it for dunya, but it's wanting to be somebody who does something. Right?
Isn't it part of considered the way they to sort of speak well of them in front of others?
No, absolutely. This is boasting. This is saying, my father did this. It's what little kids do. Really, right? Little kids do this. Little kids say, my dad's a fireman. Well, my dad's a spaceman. And it's this type of, right? I mean, it's a childish thing to do. But to mention the parents, ahsani ilayya, something like that, that's a different thing. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. This is boasting. I mean, we all recognize boasting. And now, here he says, the mountain, right? The mountain of this, Tawduha Shamikh, this high mountain, he said, of course, kibrun. It's arrogance. Right? Deem that mountain insignificant if you desire to sink it to the ground. So, kibrun, in Arabic, you have kibr, kibar, if it's maftuh, it's old age. And kibrun, if it has a sukoon over the ba, it's arrogance. And the root of it is kabura, or kabira. There's two roots. So kibrun is arrogance. And the root kabura is to grow, to be big, kabira, to grow old, right? And the idea is, kabir is to be great. Like the Arabs, kabiruhum. Ibrahim a.s. said, فَعَلَهُ كَبِيرُهُم. The great one did it. So kabir is great. Kibrun is to have something in your heart. When it manifests on the limbs, you call it takabbur. Takabbur. So kibrun and takabbur are really the same thing, only takabbur is the action. Takabbara alayya. He was arrogant towards me. In other words, he did something that showed me that. And there are many signs of kibr. There's a lot of signs of kibr. And I guarantee you, unfortunately, this is of all these, I find this the most frightening one. Because, you have some degree of it. All of us have some degree of it. And it's of continuums. It can be really bad, it can be less, and you'll rarely meet somebody that doesn't have any. And when you do, you really feel it, right? When people don't have it. But everybody has, and the most frightening thing about this is the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. No one will enter paradise, or kama qal, no one will enter paradise who has even the weight of an atom in his heart of kibr, of arrogance. So arrogance actually prevents people from getting into paradise. And this is based also on the ayah, سَأَصْرِفُ عَنْ آيَاتِيَ الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. I will divert my signs from those who show arrogance in the earth without right. And بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ indicates, the ulama say, that there are times when takabbur is actually the proper thing to do. And this was the idea of Abu Dujana when he was doing his tabakhtur. It was with a haqq. He was doing it with a haqq. And that's why in normal circumstances that would be detestable, but in that circumstance it was praiseworthy. So, now, a couple of things. That Allah will divert His signs. Allah says, I will divert my signs from those who are arrogant in the earth without justification. They don't have a haqq. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, كَذَلِكَ يَطْبَعُ اللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ قَلْبِ مُتَكَبِّرٍ جَبَّارٍ. Allah will seal the heart of every arrogant tyrant. He'll seal his heart. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْتَكْبِرِينَ. Allah doesn't love those who have istikbar. And istikbar is really the same as kibr, only it has the idea of deeming oneself great. Yastakbiru. He thinks he's great. And it comes, the root of it is ujub, which he went through, of having this ujub. Mu'jab bi nafsihi. He's very impressed with himself. And another is the hadith in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, يَقُولُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى الْكِبْرِيَاءُ رِدَائِي وَالْعَظَمَةُ إِزَارِي فَمَنْ نَازَعَنِي فِيهِمَا قَصَمْتُهُ. Kibriya, greatness, is my izar, my rida, my cloak. And azama is my cloth for the lower part. And whoever tries to challenge me in one or the other, I'll break his back. So these are two attributes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left for Himself. And He does not want people to claim these attributes.
I was just wondering, is it alright to name a tribe Akbar? Because I think that's only Allah that...
Yeah, that's something in the subcontinent. There are certain names that are given that are probably better not given. Ibn Hajj said that shaitan got into this ummah two ways. He said with the Eastern Muslims, he got in by giving them names of grandiosity. And he said with the Western Muslims, he got in by causing them to to actually pronounce good names improperly. So, for instance, in some countries, like in West Africa, Abd al-Kabir, they'll call him al-Kabir. Or they'll call Abd al-Qadir, they'll call him al-Qadir. Something like that. And so, or like in Sudan, they say Abd al-Ghadir. Right? Which is, al-Ghadir means the slave of the treacherous one. Right? The Ghadir is from Ghadar. And Allah's name is al-Qadir. Right? So that's one of the things that he said. Ibn al-Hajj said, Shaitan does that. Or he said with the Eastern Arabs, you got them to name their children things like Fakhruddin, Shamsuddin, Jamaluddin. That's why Imam Yahya al-Nawawi, his name was Muhyiddin. His father named him Muhyiddin. He refused that name. And he demanded that he be called Yahya. He completely refused that name. So those names are like Akbar, Azim, Azim, right, Uzma, those type names. What? No, one of the, that's a name. The Easterners use that. If you name him after Salahuddin, well, the problem is it's a tazkiyah. The Prophet had a wife named Birra, and he named her Zainab. And he said, La tuzakku anfusukum. He said, Astaqul asma Harith wa Humam. Those are the truest names. Harith wa Humam. Because all of you will, Yahrith, he'll sow, and all of you have concern. So those are the truest names. And the best names are names that have Abdullah, Abdurrahman, or have Ahmad, and So, if your name is one of those names, that's your name. That's what your parents gave you. So be that name. Right? I told somebody, the problem is you have people like Asadullah and they're Mil'aqatuddin. Spoon of the deen. Right? Just eat all the time. Now, this is amazing, and I need to confirm this hadith, because if it's true, Allahu Akbar. The transmission is true, but it just amazed me. يحشر المتكبرون يوم القيامة في مثل صورة الذر تطأهم الناس ذرة في مثل صورة الرجال يعلوهم كل شيء من الصغار ثم يساقون إلى سجن في جهنم يقال له بولس. I just thought that was so amazing. It said that the people of it's in Tirmidhi. The people of arrogance are raised up on Yawm al-Qiyamah and they're turned into atoms. And then everybody walks on them. Subhanallah. And then it said after that they're taken to a prison in Jahannam called Bolis. And it sounds like Bolis, the Arab, they say, Khudu ila al-Bolis, That's what they say, right? Jabbarun. Khudu ila al-Bolis. And if there's a place in Jahannam, I have to make sure that's a correct, I'm going to check in the Tirmidhi. If it is, that just amazes me. Well, a dhar is an ant. Yeah. It can be an atom or an ant. Yeah. Yeah. You've heard that with Bolis? No, I know that hadith is mashhur, but this I never heard that. Bolis. Huh. Yeah. Bolis, Basin. Bolis, it's almost exact. That's what they say, Bolis, huh? No, that's what I need to check. Yeah, I want to find out. It's in Tirmidhi. It's not in there. Now, a couple of things here just about istikbar. There are two types of istikbar. Alright? Istikbar, the worst takabbur, is takabbur of a refusal to accept truth and worship Allah. That's the worst takabbur. And then there's degrees under that. So the worst, أعظم التكبر, امتناع قبول الحق. Right? وإذعان للعبادة, and to submit to ibadah. And that's why one of the Sahaba came to the Prophet radiallahu anhu, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, inni imra'un uhibbul jamal. Right? And he said, so I'm a man who loves beauty. And he said, so I wear good shoes and I wear nice shirt. He said, أَهَذَا مِنَ الْكِبْرِ? Is this from kibr? And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا. إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَمِيلٌ يُحِبُّ الْجَمَالِ وَإِنَّمَا الْكِبْرِ بَطَرُ الْحَقِّ وَغَمْصُ النَّاسِ. In other words, he said, and this is an important hadith, because the man, first of all, he explained why he wore them. He said, I love beautiful things. The ulama say what that means is, if you wear something because you want to takabbur ala nas, to show that you're better. And this is very famous, like in this culture, people try to outdo other people. I'm in this culture, right? Go to some Muslim weddings, right? And where people are obsessed with outdoing the other. And then if one wedding is, everybody talks about it, then the next people that are getting it, we have to outdo, so-and-so, right? Abdullah and Khadija, we'll really show them what a wedding is. And this type of, that's a type of kibr, because you're trying to takabbur alayhim, right? That's what it is. And it comes from kibr, right? So this idea of istikbar is that you, on the one hand, there's two faces of it. One face is that you want to do things, you want to be great. And what Imam Raghib al-Isfahani says, if it's for something that's great, in the time that it's appropriate, for the reasons that are appropriate, then it's a good thing. So istikbar is not a negative thing. And this is the idea, again, of turning these diseases into things that are beneficial. So a desire to be great for the sake of Allah is a good thing. A desire to do great things is a good thing. The Sahaba, their himmah was high. Their himmah was high. The Prophet ﷺ's himmah was the highest, and he pulled them all up to, they saw Thuraya, Pleiades, right? I mean, they were looking at the heights when they did things. And Allah made them great people. So that is a good, praiseworthy. But the one which is blameworthy is that you try to show people, yudhir min nafsihi annahu afdaru min ghayrihi, that he tries to show people that he's better than they are. And that is what is blameworthy. Unless you want to show the non-Muslims that Muslims are better. Because Allah commands us to do that. Allah commands us to do that. Allah commands us to show them. And in fact, somebody asked me about this last night, about the Christians. The Christian answer to the world's problem is very simple. And unfortunately, because of the Muslims' capitulation, there's a ring of truth to a lot of people in it. And that is, what they say that the reason people are the way they are is because they're incorrigible. They're corrupt from original sin. There's nothing you can do about it. They're horrible, and that's it. What Allah says is, show them that that's not true. كَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We made you a just people, لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ, so that you can be witnesses to mankind that all their other ways are wrong. وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. Now the thing about that is, the Prophet شهيد علينا, he showed us that it was true. And his Sahaba are shuhada alayna, because they showed us that it was true. And the Tabi'een were shuhada alayna. And each generation gets more and more watered down. And then in the end of it, there's no more shuhada. Right? Which is why so many people in the end of time become kuffar. Because they don't see truth anymore. So they lose it. And one of the signs of the end of time is that Allah will give the dunya to all of the kuffar, and the Muslims will leave Islam because they want the dunya of the kuffar. That's a sign of the end of time according to Imam al-Biqa'i. He said that's the meaning of the ayahs in Surah Al-Zukhruf that had lawla ummatan wahida. Yeah, had it not been that Allah did not want everybody to be kuffar, then He says He would have made their houses from silver, and He would have given them staircases that they could just go up on. Right? Now you look it's amazing. You know, that's what they have now. All their houses outwardly look amazing, and people watch them on television in Mali and in Niger, and they want to have those things. Right? All this stuff. So it's a real problem. Mm-hmm.
The sealing of the heart, is there a stage in which the Quran is of no use anymore? I mean, once you seal their heart, like being sealed the heart of the Jews in the Quran, is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, if you seal the heart of the Jews, are you able to...
Can you penetrate that?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, because Allah says that even the rock can be penetrated and water can flow from it. So seals can be broken, and the way the ulama say that they're broken is by the power of the warid. And so, in other words, a prophet can, by the pure strength of him, he can penetrate that. It's by the permission of Allah, but that ran that's over the heart can be penetrated. And what Sidi Ahmed Zarruq says is that people who have these seals over their heart, he said, if they hear the truth, depending on the source that it comes from, and how powerful the source is, depending on the strength of the truth itself, and depending on the power with which it reaches the heart, it can penetrate the seal. And he said it can shake the heart up and cause a crack in the seal. But if something is not done in order to break it, in other words, tawbah, then it can seal back up again. And so they lose it. And this is what happens. Some people, they'll go to a khutbah, for instance, and something will happen to the heart, but then they go out and they go back to what they were doing, and it seals up again. So there's a closure. Right. Now, let me just quickly, before we're done here, go over, there are different types of kibr. And each one of them has qualities and characteristics. Now, the first quality is that kibr is in the heart mustaqar. It's fixed in the heart. And the person sees that he's better than other people. That's how he considers himself better than other people. Now there's a hadith in which a man was mentioned as being a good man in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, and then he came into the gathering, and the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, هَذَا الَّذِي ذَكَرْنَاهُ لَكَ. This is the man we mentioned to you. And the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنِّي أَرَى فِي وَجْهِهِ صَفْعَةً مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ. I see in his face some traces of shaitan. And so the man said salam and sat down. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, أَسْأَلُكَ بِاللَّهِ حَدَّثَتْكَ نَفْسُكَ أَلَّيْسَ فِي الْقَوْمِ أَفْضَلُ مِنْكَ. I'm asking you by Allah, did your nafs tell you when you came into this gathering that nobody in here is better than you? And he said yes. So they saw him outwardly that he was like really good, but the Prophet saw the kibr in his heart. And so he wanted to show the Sahaba that you have to be careful, because kibr is very subtle. And there are many stories of the ulama and fighting kibr. Because Imam al-Ghazali radiallahu anhu says, of all people of ilm have more danger for kibr than anyone else. That is the biggest danger of people, and students of knowledge as well. People who are studying knowledge, like ourselves, that's a major danger of studying knowledge, sacred knowledge. So that now, if you fight it and force yourself, even though you see that, then what you're doing is you're preventing the bitter fruits of that from... The tree is there and it has roots, but you're preventing the fruits of that tree from emerging, right? And the next is where you begin to actually manifest it in your actions. So the first one, there's kibr, but he's fighting it. The next one is you actually show it in your you manifest it to other people, and so you look down on people, you turn your cheek away from them. Like if he's a worshiper, he looks down on other people that are doing worship. They frown in people's faces. That's a sign of kibr, to frown in somebody's face, not to give the person the time of day, right? And the Prophet ﷺ never did that, and it's one of the signs. Adi ibn Hatim said that he knew that he wasn't a king because the old woman came and she was talking to him, and he just stopped on the street, started talking to her, and that was how he did that. So, and then, so that one who becomes mutakabbir because of his worship, the abid, and he's showing off that way, and yatakabbir an an-nas because he has worship. The third is takabbur because of hasab and nasab. Hasab is your qualities that you have, and nasab is your lineage. And traditionally, they often went together. In Western culture, they have the idea of noblesse oblige, right? That if you're somebody from the nobility, you're obliged to behave nobly. And that you find that in most traditional cultures. The Arabs definitely had that. If you were a sharif of nasab, like if you were from Ta'i clan, you had to be generous. You had to be generous. As a Ta'i, they had a reputation of being generous. If you were a Qurayshi, you had to have dignity. You had to be za'im. If you were a Yemeni, right, you had to do this. So each one of them had their qualities, and because of their nasab, they felt necessary to do that. Now, because of hasab and nasab, people become arrogant. So somebody has good lineage, they become arrogant, and they see themselves as better than other people. So they say, like for Arabs, because they're Arab, they'll see themselves as better as an Indian. Very common. Al-haq yuqal. There's a lot of Arabs that think, mujarrad ana Arabi. I had an Arab come to me once. He said, I never thought a non-Arab could ever be a real Muslim. He told me that. He said that to me. He said, I never thought a non-Arab could be a real Muslim.